What's up? So it's no secret that DC has been kind of obsessed with Batman. Throughout the company's existence, he has had 10 theatrical movies, nearly 50 animated ones, and has amassed a billion-dollar empire that would make Scrooge himself ashamed of the duck that he sees in the mirror. So it came as a surprise to no one when the Gods and Monsters chapter of the DCU was announced and we found out that we would be getting another Batman movie. And although we still don't have a lot of info about this movie, it sparked one of the biggest debates among Batman fans. The topic of Robert Pattinson's The Batman joining the DCU, or just having a new version of this character. But now that some time has passed and DC has attached a director and a screenwriter to Brave and the Bold, it looks like they will be going with a different version for the DCU. And even though back when I made a video about the Batman Part 2, I was very against the merger happening, this does still raise some concerns for me. In that video, I said that I didn't think that the general audience would be confused if there was two separate Batman at the same time, when that is, that's just wrong. The general audience is people like my dad, and my dad didn't know that there was more than one Robin until he watched one of my Batman videos. So I do think there will be a disconnect there, but if we keep these Batman different enough and make it clear that they aren't connected, hopefully we can avoid that. As I said, we don't really have a lot of information about this movie, but that actually really excites me because what we have here is a blank slate for one of the most iconic characters to ever exist in fiction. And because throughout the next few years we're going to be getting a lot of Batman, it made me want to go back and rewatch some of my favorite Batman movies. And after watching so many different versions of Batman, it made me really think about what exactly I would want from a new version of this character. So without any more delay, let's start with talking about the most important thing in my opinion, The Batman suit is probably the most recognizable superhero costume ever. You can see it anywhere. But whether it's the sort of militarized suit from the Christian Bale iteration or the cobbled together design from the Robert Pattinson version, most of these suits have been so focused on making Batman realistic. Like he could be out there somewhere in our world fighting crime. But with the DCU having so many over-the-top concepts like intergalactic zoos and space bars, I would really hope that DCU Batman doesn't feel as shackled to realism as so many of his other depictions. There are a lot of things to consider when making a new Batman suit. All black or black and gray or blue and gray. Do we do the trunks? Do we do the white eyes? But something that I think a lot of people overlook is the emblem, because it can really make or break the suit depending on what comic you're reading. I'm not sure whether or not I want it to be like the logo on his chest or just the bat symbol, because the black and yellow logo is iconic, but I really like it when the bat symbol can be like taken off and used as something else. And having Batman do that and like leaving a giant yellow circle on his chest would probably look a little funny, but I don't know, it could still work. And even though the Superman suit has the trunks, I don't think that we should get our hopes up that the Batman suit will. I would want the suit to have the trunks though, don't get me wrong. I definitely think that we shouldn't be afraid of making him look a little goofy. Call this a hot take, but I do think that superheroes should be running around with their underwear on the outside of their pants. Plus, if there is an actual possibility of us getting a World's Finest movie, Superman shouldn't be the only one running around in trunks. And in regards to the white eyes, I'm all for comic accuracy, but also I feel like eyes are such an important thing for an actor to have.
It posed a significant challenge because obviously the actor's face and the actor's eyes are some of the most valuable tools that they have to communicate with an audience.
And I don't really think that we should take that away from the actor just for the sake of comic accuracy. So I don't think that they should do the white eyes. Not permanently. Just do what you did with Mr. Terrific and have them go all white when he's analyzing something. And given my concerns about the general audience being confused about two separate Batman, you know what would be a good way to differentiate the two? A blue suit. If you are one of those Batman fans that has been begging for a blue suit in a live action movie, I think there is a decent chance that it could happen with this. And yeah, blah blah blah, Creature Commandos, he has a black suit in that. But they purposely kept him in silhouette and covered his suit with his cape because they weren't ready to commit to a full design. So I don't really think that we should take that 2-second clip and use it as like 100% confirmation. Like just because we saw Wonder Woman in that Vision 2 doesn't mean that that's gonna be the definitive Wonder Woman costume. I know a lot of people don't really like the blue suit because they like can't take it seriously, because I feel like a lot of people think of Adam West when they hear blue suit Batman. But also I'm pretty sure Batman was originally drawn with blue accents just to like highlight the black parts of his costume in the same way that like Black Panther was. But since then, the blue suit has kind of become synonymous with the character and has given us some of his best designs. And we've seen time and time again that the blue suit can be a part of some more serious stories, so it's not like he can't be taken seriously with it. Now, I'm not gonna lie, lie, I used to be a blue suit denier. I used to be like, blue suit? He's a dark creature of the night. But then I rewatched New Frontier and then I remembered that they framed it like this.
No! Stay away! Stay away!
Back off, you're scaring the boy.
New look, a sidekick. Do you mind if I ask you?
As a matter of fact, I do. Let's just say I set out to scare criminals, not children.
Fair enough.
Or they can kind of do like a mix of black and blue. Like the Ben Affleck Batman suit looks black when it's in the darker scenes, but then when it's lit up, it looks much more blue. And I feel like that would be a perfect middle ground to keep both the blue suit and the black suit fans happy. I'm gonna start this by saying, can he have more than just his grappling hook? Every Batman has a grappling hook and batarangs. Maybe you get a flight suit, you know, if you're lucky. And even after rewatching all of the theatrical Batman movies, I feel like they still haven't fully tapped into the endless potential that his gadgets have. Batman and Robin, even for all of its faults, really embraced the ridiculousness of Batman's gadgets. And I'm not saying that I want DCU Batman to have a Bat credit card or ice skates that pop out of his boots. Actually, no, that is what I'm saying. Batman is a character who is always planning for every possible outcome to every possible situation, and his arsenal should reflect that. Maybe I'm being hyperbolic when I say I want a Bat credit card. I don't want to go fully overboard into the goofiness of Batman, but there's a good middle ground that we could hit, no? I'd like to reiterate that we shouldn't be afraid of making Batman a little goofy when the concept of Batman is a little goofy. And we also shouldn't be afraid to give him more than just a grappling hook and some smoke bombs. I want the ears on his cowl to pop out and turn into spikes. I want the utility belt to be an endless supply of anything he ever needs. I want the goddamn shark repellent. Give it to me. Now! Just like his gadgets, I want Batman's vehicles to represent his readiness for any situation. So obviously he's gonna need the essentials, the Batmobile, the Batwing, and the Batboat. But I am gonna say, I almost don't want him to have the motorcycle. All of the most recent iterations of Batman have a Batcycle, so let's differentiate this one from them and save the motorcycle for Robin or something. It really surprises me that throughout all of the live action movies, we've never gotten a Batmobile that can turn into the Batwing, and I would love to see something like that. I would want a full-on Transformer style transition from one vehicle to the next. It's weird, out of all of the Batman movies, my favorite vehicle comes from the Lego Batman movie. Ignoring the vehicles that only existed to make sets out of and the obvious advantage that that version of Batman has because of his master building abilities, the Scuttler, genuinely one of the coolest Batman vehicles to ever exist, and I would love to see something similar. Speaking of Lego Batman, that movie has what I consider to be the best Batcave that we have ever gotten in a theatrical Batman movie. Pretty much every Batcave has just been a dark room with some computers and a space for the vehicles. And Lego Batman had this giant, almost endless seeming cave with every vehicle and suit that you could think of. And after Superman getting such an amazing Fortress of Solitude, I would really want them to go all out with the DCU's Batcave. Although a lot of Batcaves are just dark rooms with computers in them, there are some elements from those caves that could be good. I do like the Keaton Cave, both in his movies with Tim Burton and what we saw of it in The Flash. So a combination of that cave and the Lego Batman cave would be perfect. And again, don't be afraid to lean into the goofiness a little bit, okay? I want the dinosaur, I want the big penny, and I want a closet full of bat suits. In Creature Commandos, we got a look into the backstory of Dr. Phosphorus, not only giving us a quick look at Batman, but also giving us our first glimpse at Gotham City in the DCU. And I mean, it's fine, I guess. I'm really glad that this is just like a few second clip and not like 100% what Gotham is gonna look like in the DCU. The only thing that really has Gotham vibes here is the gargoyles. Take those away and this is just dark, spooky city. Gotham City and The Batman was cool. That's probably the best realistic Gotham City, but for the DCU, I would really want to go back to basics and make it more gothic. I keep bringing up Batman and Robin. I don't mean to make it seem like I liked that movie. Really, I should be calling it the Poison Ivy movie, featuring Batman and Robin. But seeing this chase scene through the streets of Gotham that is just made up of these skyscrapers with bridges connecting them is an amazing sight to see, and I would love something similar from the DCU.
No, I can't be your Batman, cause I be Robin.
This is probably the thing that I would want the most from this movie. The only time that we've gotten a proper Bat family in a theatrical movie was in the Lego Batman movie. I've tried to give Batman and Robin its props in this video, but I do not count this as a Bat family. Barbara wasn't even an important character in that movie until like the last few minutes where she suited up so we could have the girl hero beat the girl villain. I really wish that her arc as Batgirl was built up better. It really feels like it just came out of nowhere. So that's why this never really felt like a proper Bat family to me, especially compared to the Lego Batman movie, which was much more about found family and learning to love again after traumatic events in your life. I know a lot of people are skeptical about Andy Muschietti directing because of his work on The Flash, but I am a huge fan of his work in the It franchise, and every single one of those projects has those same found family elements that I would love to see brought to Brave and the Bold. And given the title of this movie, this video wouldn't be complete if I didn't at least mention the show This show is amazing. If I didn't catch both episodes of this show and Justice League Unlimited when I was a kid, I simply wouldn't be the massive DC fan that I am today. But I will say, a lot of episodes of Brave and the Bold really focused on Batman teaming up with the hero of the week, and a lot of the time that kind of led to Batman playing second fiddle in his own show. And that's something that could also be an issue with the DCU's Bat family if we expand the roster too much. So even though I do want to see a Bat family, I don't want them to overshadow Batman in any way. When Brave and the Bold was first announced, it was said to be a story with an older Batman featuring the Damian Wayne version of Robin. Since then, it's been said that some things have changed, but we're gonna have to wait to see what ends up definitively happening. And I just see that as more opportunities for what we could be seeing in terms of Batman supporting cast. And because of that, I have a few different ideas for who I want for the Bat family roster. First is obviously having a young Dick Grayson team up with Batman, or just skipping forward in the timeline and having him be Nightwing. I'm not exactly sure which one I would want more. I would definitely love to see a 13 to 15-year-old Robin on Batman's side saying stuff like golly gee. But also, if we skip straight to Nightwing, we kind of run the risk of doing the same thing that we did with Batman Forever, because Jack O'Connell never really felt like Robin to me. He always just felt like Nightwing already. Nightwing. But if we were to have him just be Nightwing already and have Robin be someone like Damian Wayne, can we characterize Damian Wayne in a way that makes me actually want to root for him, please? Because anytime he showed up in the DC animated universe, I wanted to tear my eyes out. Him being stubborn works for when Batman and him are first introduced and when Batman and him eventually face off, but if he just remains the same asshole after learning the lessons from those movies, it's gonna be hard for me to root for him if it doesn't feel like his character is progressing. Hi. It's me, I'm editing this video right now. That guy down there, his footage got fucked up, so now he's frozen. That's why I'm here. I'm perfectly okay with Damian Wayne later in the DCAU when he has actually matured and grown into the role of Robin. I just don't think it needed to take 3 movies where he learns the same lesson. And if we are going the route of having Dick be the first Robin, I would love to see the story of Jason Todd brought to the big screen. I think that they were trying to hint at a similar story with the DCEU, and having Robin get killed by Joker, even if he is going to be brought back to life, would be such a big moment for general audiences who aren't really familiar with the backstory. And if we are just gonna skip to Nightwing, I feel like having Red Hood just be another vigilante on the streets would be such a disservice to his character, especially for all of the questions that Jason Todd raises for Batman. Their conversation about why Batman has his no-kill rule is one of my favorite in DC Comics, and I would hate to lose the chance to see that scene in one of these movies. Also, I feel like having him die and then be brought back to life through the Lazarus Pit would probably be a bit much to happen off screen, so maybe have the first movie be Batman and Dick Grayson, and then in a hypothetical sequel, we could have Dick slowly start to go out on his own and separate himself from Batman, leading to him looking for a new Robin and getting introduced to Jason Todd. And with Christina Hodson being the screenwriter, maybe she could get a chance to give us a proper Cassandra Cain. I know people are just as, if not more, skeptical about her being involved, but I wouldn't really be mad if she decides to bring in Damian Wayne, because I know for a fact that she's good at writing annoying little shit. Christina Hodson also worked on Birds of Prey, and something that I equally liked and didn't like about that movie was how Huntress just kind of shows up at the end. I like it because it's cool having these characters randomly meet up. Like, that's very comic booky. It answers the question of how did all of these random characters end up in the same place. What I don't really like about it is how much Huntress kind of feels like an afterthought. They kind of treated her character like a joke, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'd say that she was characterized to fit the vibe of the movie. But also, how is the actress who plays Huntress more intimidating as an antagonist in Sky High than Birds of Prey? But hopefully Christina Hodson gets a chance to give us a more comic accurate version. Huntress was originally the daughter of Batman Batman and Catwoman on Earth 2, but then post-Crisis in some other iterations where they aren't related, she's kind of a love interest for Batman, which has always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I know that this is a different timeline and that they're not related here, but it's always just been kind of odd to me, given the history of her character, so maybe don't adapt that. And if we're talking a straightforward Batman love interest, although I do like some iterations of the character where he's kind of portrayed as like aromantic, asexual, like nothing is more important to him than his mission. But on the other side of the coin, you cannot ignore the iconic DC couple that is Batman and Catwoman. I love the idea of having Catwoman start out as a villain and then throughout the DCU, having them start to have that tension during their fights, and then showing Batman having to learn to trust her as she becomes a member of the Bat family. And I know I didn't really talk costume designs for any of the other characters, but for Catwoman, can we please get the purple dress? I am so sick of the leather. But of course, we can't forget the most important member of the Bat family, Alfred Pennyworth himself. I know that Alfred is like the guy in the chair, but I've noticed a lot of the time he's relegated to just being the guy in the chair, and I want him to be involved in some way. I think of how Alfred in the Lego Batman movie was just as along for the ride as anybody else. Also, Alfred is a badass. Can we not just have him be cleaning the whole time? This man was a tail gunner for the Royal Air Force. He was rappelling out of choppers before Bruce Wayne was born. There's ways for him to be involved without him just being in Wayne Manor the whole time. Just give Alfred a gun. You give Batman a gun, he gives you a lecture. You give Alfred a gun, he takes matters into his own hands. I think the biggest reason that I was so against Robert Pattinson being the DCU's Batman was because with the grounded and realistic world that that movie takes place in, I didn't really see Matt Reeves bringing in a lot of Batman's more unrealistic characters. I just can't see a world where this Batman fights a woman who can control plants. I just don't see that happening. Batman has what is probably the best rogues gallery in all of comics, and I really hope that the DCU taps into the endless possibilities that holds. Starting with, who is probably my favorite lesser-known Batman villain. Seriously, I don't know how more people don't know about this guy. The Joker. I know the Joker has been kind of oversaturated in a lot of Batman media, even getting his own pretty good solo movie that was immediately followed by this. You had an entire musical set in the Batman universe and no Music Meister? Okay. Sure, man, whatever. But since we got such an amazing version of Superman's most iconic antagonist, it only feels right to do the same for Batman. But I think it would be cool to maybe have Joker be a sort of side antagonist, like a constant annoyance in Batman's life. And since the Batman Part 2 seems to be focusing more on bringing in the Dent family and what happened during the Penguin show, instead of focusing on the Barry Keoghan version of Joker that we saw in a deleted scene, if he's not gonna be in those movies, why not have him in these? But speaking of that version of Joker, even in that short deleted scene, I love how it still feels so different from other iterations while still not feeling so different that it just doesn't feel like the Joker. And that's something that I would really want with a newer version of Joker. Something that feels familiar without feeling like an imitation of any of his previous versions. Also, give him a hat. I don't know why, I really like when Joker has the hat. And I do wonder how DC is gonna handle Harley Quinn if she does end up being a part of this universe. Like, would it be the Harley Quinn that we saw in the Suicide Squad? Because I'm still confused on whether or not that movie is canon or not. I know that apparently everything in Peacemaker Season 2 that makes reference to the Suicide Squad immediately makes those events canon, and I don't think that Peacemaker ever mentioned Harley in Season 2. But things from that movie were defining aspects of certain characters' motivations, so I think it's canon, which does mean that it's possible that they end up bringing back Margot Robbie to play Harley Quinn, which I don't think anybody would really complain about. I mean, her casting as Harley Quinn is up there with some of the best comic character castings, but that would be kind of odd because she did reference Jared Leto's Joker in the Suicide Squad, and that would just make the canon even more confusing. So I could just as likely see them bringing in a new actress to play Harley and then having her and Peacemaker cross paths, and then he's just like, hey, you look different. Did you do something with your hair? With Clayface getting his own solo movie in the DCU, it would be a wasted opportunity to not have him and Batman cross paths at some point. Clayface has always been one of my favorite Batman villains, and it's amazing to see him get such a spotlight this early into the DCU. But I do think it's kind of funny seeing the tone of this movie in the teaser and then remembering we were first introduced to this version of Clayface as this lazy bum. I know that when the DCU was first announced, it was pitched as being able to have these characters easily transition from animation to live action, and I'm very curious to see how well that will be executed. Like, how realistically are we going to see this version of Clayface turn into the giant glop monster with the more grounded tone that movie seems to be going for. I really hope he does, though, especially with Mike Flanagan saying that a lot of his inspiration for the movie came from the 2-part episode Feet of Clay from the animated series. Matt Gargan turning into this blob of clay is so effective for the themes of those episodes. So I really hope that the movie's version of that isn't just squished and melted face. I think it would actually be pretty cool to maybe have Clayface eventually become a Batman ally, like how Basil Karlo's Clayface did in Detective Comics Rebirth. And I know that this version of Clayface is Matt Hagen, but the movie clearly wants us to root for him in some way. Did I call him Matt Gargan earlier? Was I thinking of Scorpion? And it's gonna be really funny to be watching this struggling actor with a drug addiction and then be watching Batman beat the shit out of him. Bane and Deathstroke are 2 other Batman villains that are getting their own movie, but this one will feature the 2 together. I'm kind of confused on what that movie's gonna be. Like, is it gonna be a Bane and Deathstroke team up and maybe have Batman be like an antagonist? Or is it gonna be Bane versus Deathstroke? Greg Mottola is apparently in the running to be the director of the movie, and he also made Superbad, so it could be a coming-of-age buddy comedy for all we know. They could genuinely go in any direction with this movie because these 2 haven't really interacted much in comics, so I am really excited to see the idea that was brought up that just needed to have the 2 together. For Bane, I would want them to make him like insanely buff, and I don't mean like Alan Richmond buff, I mean like unnecessarily, unrealistically buff. I think it would be cool to do something with his character in the same vein as Clayface, where what he is using is a metaphor for substance addiction. Bane can do the same, but for steroid addiction. I know they're both drugs, but it's 2 different kinds of drug addiction, so fuck off. Like, maybe Bane gets a hold of the venom and starts using. He gets more muscular, but it's not enough, so he keeps using and keeps getting more muscular. But it's not enough. It's never enough. I'm not sure how realistic this is, but I would really want him to be like giant, like 2 times Batman's height. I'm talking like absolute Bane levels of massive. You may have noticed that I called Deathstroke a Batman villain, but that's not technically correct. Because of both Arkham Origins and Knight, some people do think that he is just a straight up Batman villain, but he's much more of an antagonist for Nightwing and the Teen Titans. But bringing him into a Batman movie could still be really interesting, especially if we do end up getting a younger Dick Grayson. Batman and Robin could face off against Deathstroke in one movie, and then as Robin grows into the role of Nightwing, he could show back up and be an antagonist for a hypothetical Teen Titans movie. And it would be great to see Deathstroke in live action again after the end credit scene of Justice League not really leading to anything. But if we do end up going with Damian, I see no reason why they wouldn't want to introduce both Talia and Ra's al Ghul. Oh, sorry, I don't want to make myself seem like an idiot. It's pronounced Ra's al Ghul. Anyway, Ra's al Ghul would be pretty cool to bring in because my only real issue with Liam Hemsworth's version was that he never came back after Batman Begins. I mean, there was that flashback in The Dark Knight, but I always wondered why they never brought him back. Like, if you're gonna kill the guy who can come back to life and you're gonna have him not come back to life, why'd you include him? I mean, it worked for the movie. I guess maybe Christopher Nolan just didn't want to mess with the Lazarus Pit, which, you know, I get. But that is something that I've always thought about with this version of Ra's al Ghul, and the DCU could be a second chance to actually make that happen. Given that Batman has one of the most iconic rogues galleries, no matter who I bring up, I'm gonna be leaving out somebody with a lot of potential. So honestly, I'm not gonna get like fully attached to any of these ideas because they could bring in some random villain that's only existed in one comic issue ever, and I would be perfectly okay with it. Give me Crazy Quilts or Eraser. How about Polka Dot Man, Mime, Tarantula, King Cut, Orca, Killer Moth, March Harriet, Zodiac Master, Gentleman Ghost, Clock King, Calendar Man, Kite Man, Catman, Zebra Man, and the Condiment King.
Okay, are you making some of those up?
Nope, they're all real.
Since this will be a brand new version of Batman, I want it to be just that. A brand new version of Batman. Because even though there have been some amazing Batman movies, they all, for the most part, try to do the same thing. Make a grounded, realistic story. And I think that we've gotten enough of that.
The 89 Tim Burton Batman movie was great, but I feel like every movie past that, as much as I love the Nolan movies, is in that vein too much. It's like there's a whole other lane for Batman, and you could do so much other things with Batman, but everyone's trying to do these like dark, real world, dramatic, like Batman movies, and I would rather see Batman fighting space aliens and doing fun stuff.
Robert Kirkman kind of said some fuck shit about Batman earlier in that same interview, but like that little bit, that little clip, take that in a bubble and he's right. And I know that he's the world's greatest detective and that immediately makes everybody want to make a crime thriller, but again, Given the title of this movie, I'm immediately thinking of That show was able to bounce from Batman fighting an intelligent gorilla to Batman fighting giant Easter bunnies, and it did that without making Batman any less serious. There was an entire episode where Batman and Robin fight crazy quilts, of all people, and it was still able to tell a great emotional story between the two titular characters. That is the type of stuff that I want from DCU Batman. I want him to feel different while still remaining faithful to the character. And I hope that they use this version of Batman to clear up a big misconception that I think a lot of fans have about him. I really hate how some Batman fans see him as this husk that is void of any emotion, when Batman is not an emotionless character. The only reason he's Batman in the first place is because of the grief and the love that he has for his parents. He has his no-kill rule because he is scared of becoming like the villains he fights. And the only way that those villains can get to him is through the people he loves. Batman's weakness isn't a space rock or the color yellow. It's the people he cares about. Batman is not an emotionless character. He just hides that emotion because he knows it is the one thing that can be used against him. And I think that's why I want the Bat family so much, because there's this inherent loneliness that comes with the character of Batman. And the Bat family is both a reminder to him that people care about him, but also a reminder to us, the audience, to not always hide our emotions behind a mask. That's why I love this character so much, because no matter how hard he tries to hide behind that mask, at the end of the day, he's still Bruce Wayne, and he loves his family. And it blows my mind that that has only been properly portrayed in Lego Batman media. Are we serious? I was gonna have a whole section of this video going through a bunch of different fan casts for Batman, because that's another big point of conversation, but this video is getting long enough, so I'll just give you my top 3. Number 3, Rami Malek. Number 2, Bill Skarsgård. And number 1, Jensen Ackles. Actually, fuck all them. Get them off the screen. Cooper Barnes as Batman and Jason Norman as Nightwing. Thank you. But what I really want, the most important thing in this video, I just want Brave and the Bold to bring the character from the comics to life in the same way that Superman did. When I left the theater for Superman, I had felt like I just watched a comic book come to life, and something that truly embraced what makes Superman special. And I need this movie to do the same for Batman. And I could keep going on about what makes this character so special, be another nerd on YouTube over-explaining why Batman is so deep, or I could just let the GOAT do it.
He's the only one who's actually not a superhero. There's nothing supernatural about Batman, you know what I mean? He can't fly, he can't see through walls. He's a man. He's a human being. But not only is he human, he's a very flawed human, and he knows he's flawed. He's been damaged by life. But Kevin, we're all flawed, right? And we all get damaged by life. So it makes Batman that much more relatable, because he's so much like us in a way. What distinguishes him is that no matter what life throws at him, no matter what crisis or challenge or failure, he never lets it crush him. He never lets it make him angry or bitter. He takes that pain that life throws at him and he turns it into something positive. And he gives it back to the world as love. Because his whole mission is to leave the world better than he found it. And it's the nobility of that mission. That's what we admire so much about him. But that's something we can all aspire to in our lives. You don't have to have superpowers to want to give to the people in your life, to want to leave the world a better place. All you have to do is care enough to try.